What is happening, Bairns? Welcome to In the KM, one South Standers point of view on all things navy blue. As always, I am your host Ray, and today's video we are here to talk about our trip down to the south side of Glasgow to take on Queen's Park in another box office Bairns clash that will be live on BBC Scotland tomorrow. So, a couple of things I want to talk about just before we get into the specifics today's video. One thing that straight away I want to say a big huge thank you to everybody that subscribes to the channel.
I love you.
We've now broken the 200 subscriber mark, which is absolutely quality. Now it's no doing the numbers of some other podcasts and that out there yet, but that's fine, we'll get there. Rome wasn't built in a day and all that, and just slowly over time it's the numbers are getting bigger and bigger, and it means more exposure for the club, more people talking about this club as well. And I know it's not the most popular, the most sexy subject to talk about, but if these videos reach even neutrals and they end up going to games, I mean, you've seen that as well. I mean, you've seen the interview with the boy Spider that's been going to a lot of the games recently. I mean, and that's somebody that's taking the club to heart as well. So the more exposure the club can get, the better. And if I can play even a teeny weeny minuscule part in that, then I'm honoured and privileged to do that. So again, thank you all so much for watching these videos, and the new people that are coming on board as well. You new people as well, you don't know how lucky you are. Go back and watch the first few videos I done, they were fucking rough.
That smells like ass.
So I really appreciate the new people coming on board as well, but got to give a lot of love and respect to my OG folk that were there for the beginning, went through the really pish videos to start with. Speaking of videos that I done previously, just want to say as well, Happy Ray, as you can tell, is clearly back. I'm fine now. I've got everything off my chest for last weekend. I'm happy now.
Almost lost my cool there.
It's done. We lost the game. We went up the road with no points. We just hit reset and we go again. And we go again tomorrow night. Which, that's the other thing as well, is that, you know, normally I would upload my videos like 2 days before the matches. It gives a wee bit more chance for people to watch it. I feel like uploading it so soon before kickoffs can really impact the kind of numbers that you're able to get, especially when you're talking, if I was to upload it for example on a Friday, I don't finish work until 7:30 at night, so I'm uploading probably about 9-10 o'clock at night, and then the game the next day is 3 PM kickoff. Who's even going to watch it? Do you know what I mean? But it's a bit different with this one because it's a late kick-off, so it's fine. And I wasn't uploading yesterday anyway. I had a lot of stuff on, i.e. turning 21. No, I wasn't. I was a different number. But birthday yesterday, wasn't uploading. I was just a wee bit too tired to be uploading stuff. The other advantage as well is that it gives me enough time to listen to the gaffer's pre-match interview, which I don't tend to catch when I do the videos 2 days in advance, because he always annoyingly enough does them the day before, and it completely ruins my plans. And sometimes I've said some things about players I want to see start, etc., and then he just comes on and gets asked about 2 questions, and within the 2 questions half my video's in the toilet. So, speaking of the interview, since I never get to talk about this, right? Speaking of that interview, he was asked about the players that came through the Stirlingshire Cup game against Stenhousemuir a couple of days back, which, for those of you that aren't aware, we won the game 5-3. So, Agyeman scored twice. Barney Stewart came off the bench. He got a goal as well, and the other 2 goal scorers, I'm trying to do this off of memory here. So Agyeman made it 1-0, and then they equalised, and then we made it 2-1 when Scott Honeyman scored for the penalty spot, and then Agyeman made it at 3-1. So he had a cracker again. One of the goals he scored was an absolute peach, you know. And then, sorry, I'm just bringing this up now. That's when Barney Stewart came on, and apparently he nearly scored with his first touch of the ball as well, and scored with, I think it was his third touch. Here, just to park things for a minute, like Barney Stewart, I was talking about him on the Pie and Bovril pages, and there was a really good debate going on about him. For those of you that aren't on Pie and Bovril, I want to share with you that just what the debate is with him, because it's an interesting one, right? Because you've got a young boy, and what age is he? Is he about 20? And I think he's a wee bit younger than the likes of Caelan Adams. That you've got a boy that's in supreme amounts of confidence at the moment. He's clearly at the top of his game. I mean, he comes in, he's 2 minutes in the door, and he can only play in that Stirlingshire Cup game because it doesn't comply with the SPFL rules. So it means that even though he's technically still on loan at the other club there, Harrington Uni, that he can still come and play for us for that one game, and then he goes back to them. But he's banging in goals left, right, and centre. He played again for them last night and scored in that game and all. It's crazy, 2 goals in 2 games, and he's broke all kinds of records with them as well. And the interesting debate that we were all having, right, is what happens with him in January? Where do we go for here? Because on the one hand, you don't want to thrust too much pressure on the boy. He's still young, he's still learning. But at the same time, with the form he's in, you'd be tempted to give him a go and see what he's got. He's a big boy. He knows where the goal is as well. We've got another option. Do you know what I mean? The question is, though, do you want to risk damaging his confidence by putting him into the team and, for example, he doesn't hit the ground running? It's an interesting conundrum that John McGlynn's got here, because he will be our player as of January. The loan that he's got with Harrington University is done. So when he comes back to us in January, the question is, what we're going to do with him. And he briefly spoke about this in his interview as well, where he said that he will give him a chance, he'll come in and he'll have a look at him and make an assessment for there. But interestingly enough, right, if we get, this is a wee bit of a sidebar here, but if we do end up getting past East Kilbride in the Cup, we'll have another Cup game in early, well, I was going to say early January, I think it's like midpoint in January. That's the sort of game where you would maybe see a bit of a squad rotation, and maybe the likes of Barney Stewart could start in that match. Let's see what the boys got. It's a Cup game where presumably we're going to be against lower level opposition, especially if we get like a home game as well. Put him on for the start. Let's see what he can do. It's not like we're desperate to see this boy succeed. You know, you see the numbers that he's putting in for the team that he's currently playing for. He's banging, like I said, he's banging in goals constantly. It's hard to look what he's doing and be like, he is going to be another Caelan Adams. But at the same time, we can't put too much pressure on the boy. But if we're able to put him on at the start in a cup game, I don't see how that's putting too much pressure on him at all. The alternative you've got as well is we put him back out on loan, maybe to someone at a bit of a higher level. And again, McGlynn talked about this in his interview as well, where he said maybe a League 1 or a League 2 team. That probably makes the most sense, and it's maybe no the sexy option. It's no the, like, 'cause we all love seeing a young player come into the team and hit the ground running and look like they've no missed. Well, I was going to say no missed a beat, but he's not played for us yet. You know what I mean, though? It's the same thing with Caelan Adams, where he's come in for a much lower level, and he's just went like that, and I still pinch myself. I don't know about any of you other parents out there. You pinch yourself and just think, how is that boy went from playing junior football to, we're not even just talking championship, you know, we're talking going to Celtic Park and still being one of the best players on the pitch. How is that possible? If we can get the same kind of thing out of Barney Stewart, I will be absolutely delighted. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think we should give him a chance to see what he can do in the first team before we then make an assessment to loan him out. And that suggests what McGlynn's thinking is as well. I just don't want to put him in a situation where his confidence can get absolutely shredded. If I use Ryan Shanley as an example here, I really feel for Ryan Shanley. I feel like he's been left out to dry a wee bit by large sections of the fan base, and also by John McGlynn as well, who barely ever plays him anymore. And it's just, he made a bad mistake with that penalty, and it feels like if he was to leave the club tomorrow, what's he going to be remembered for? He's going to be remembered for messing up a penalty and getting sent off against Hearts, and that's it. And it's really a shame. Like, these moments can completely destroy somebody's confidence, and that's what it is, because Shanley's, he's arguably no the level that we need, but you can see that he's got no confidence when he does play, and I just don't want to see that happen to a young boy. So we've just got to be patient. That's really what I'm trying to say here. Right, so tangents aside, in terms of what else McGlynn talked about as well, he said that, you know, because there were a few first team players that did play in this match. I've already mentioned about Agyeman, but you've also got the likes of Sean Mackey, who came through the game unscathed, which is fantastic, because whilst I like Leon McCann, and I'm not slating him when I say this, so don't misquote me or anything, or get straight into the comments and shouting abuse at me. I like Leon McCann, but I prefer Sean Mackey. Yes, Sean Mackey has a mistake in him, whereas aside from that own goal that McCann scored last season, I challenge you to come up with any kind of mistake that McCann has made. He is steady Eddie. He steadies the ship. He never ever puts a foot wrong. That own goal that he scored was so out of character. It really was. But with Mackey, yes, he has a gaff in him, but he can also win you matches as well. And it's kind of like this yin and yang situation with Mackey. And I find it so captivating. I find him such an exciting, such an interesting player to watch. I'm a really big fan of Sean Mackey, because you just, like, people will say the Captain Chaos thing with Alfredo Agyeman is maybe not quite like that with Sean Mackey, but sometimes you don't know what Mackey you're going to get, because he does have a mistake in him, but like I said, he can score goals as well. I mean, he's scored a few goals already this season, and I think that whilst we haven't necessarily looked a bit one-sided because Ethan Ross plays on the left, we're not seeing the same level of dynamicism. We're not seeing the same level on the left in terms of the defensive side of things, because Mackey loves to drive into the box as well. He wants to get on the end of things. He's not really all that interested in crossing the ball. He wants to dribble. He wants to take folk on the same way that Ethan Ross does, and it can cause a lot of chaos as well. I just think he offers something different. So if he's come through the game unscathed, that's wonderful news. I still personally wouldn't expect to see him start on tomorrow. I was going to say Saturday, tomorrow, because he's just played during the week and he's just back for injury as well. So he most likely will be on the bench, but I'd like to see him get some minutes off the bench at some point. In terms of other players that are notably playing against Stennismuir in the Stirlingshire Cup game, you've got Finn Yates as well. He came through the game as well. He's kind of struggled for minutes a wee bit. You know, he comes off the bench, but he's not really had the impact that he had against Celtic, which is, well, since then I should say, and it's a bit of a shame, because I really I rate Finn Yates. I think he's a really good player, and it's just a case of that he's in the position that Sean Mackey was in last season, where he's sitting on a bench at the moment, knowing he's a good player, but knowing as well that he can't get into the team because the guy in front of him is playing better. There's no argument that you can make for him to start over for Caelan Adams. There's somewhat more of an argument to be made over starting over Dylan Tate, but I don't buy it. I've seen some people say that they don't really rate Dylan all that much, and I'm like, again, Dylan has lapses in concentration sometimes. You know, we've seen it a couple of times, funnily enough, in both of the losses that we've had. Again, I'm not wanting to make this about ragging on Dylan Tate. I'm just stating a fact that he's had a couple of mistakes, but I just don't think it's very fair for folk to focus too much on that, because what about the goals he's scored, the goals he's laid off for others? It's no fair to say, well, we lost 2 games and he caused goals in both of them. I don't think that's very fair. So, Dylan Tate's still ahead of Finn Yates as well. Can he maybe play in the 10 role? Maybe. But Nesbitt, Saturday aside, has been really, really good since he came back for his injury as well. So I don't see him getting back in. So you're probably talking on the bench anyway. The fact that he played through this game as well suggests as much. In terms of other first team players, notably you had Michael McKenna as well, who played in that game, and then you had Callum Morrison, who unfortunately picked up an ankle injury during this game and is ruled out of the game tomorrow, which is really, really frustrating. It's just turning into one of these seasons where there's just, what can you do? There's nothing Callum can do about this. It's going to be so frustrating as well. The good thing as well is, though, that from the sounds of things, and John McGlynn didn't go into too much detail on this, though, it doesn't sound like a bad one. It sounds more like a niggling injury as opposed to having to have his foot in like a moon boot or anything like that, the way Mackie did. It sounds like he'll be back fine from it, but it's just another setback where at this point he really needs to start playing, maybe no 90 minutes, but like 60 minutes, and he can't get into the team, and then he gets another niggling injury, and then that's him getting less minutes again. Aye, it's just one of the ones. What can you do about it? We just have to adapt with it, and we move on. Now, in terms of how I expect the lineup to be, because this is an interesting one, because do you go with McKeever or do you go with Oliver? Because some people would say that it didn't work with Ross McKeever at the weekend. Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, but I understand what folk are saying, right? Because we resorted to lumping the ball up to him when we were maybe being swarmed a bit and being overrun in midfield, and we were maybe relying on him to get all the knockdowns. But the boys that they had at the back, McGowan and is it Nottingham? Is that the name of the other boy? Like, they're built like monsters for Space Jam. As I said, that's a tough gig. That's a tough shift. The question is that just an isolated incident, or do we lose a facet of our play by having the role that McKeever occupies in the team? Are we arguably a better team at this point with Gary Oliver playing the role that he plays? Have the team adapted to that role maybe a little bit better? Or is it a case of Ross McKeever's been a bit rusty and he just needs a bit more time? So again, before anybody dives into the comments and starts like shouting abuse that I'm trying to say Oliver's a better player than McKeever, I am not saying that. I'm saying that they're different players, and I think that at this point our play had evolved to incorporate Oliver's off the ball movement more, and like I said, you see Ross and Miller and Nesbitt all interchanging in their positions, and it causes havoc. We didn't really see that against Livingston, but are we reading too much into things? And I know that as football supporters we tend to be prone to looking for scapegoats. You want to point at one player or one decision and say that's why we lost a match. I think that there's so much more to it than just Ross McKeever. Personally, I think that if McGlynn's went with McKeever for that game, I think that it would knock his confidence if he was to take McKeever back out of the team again. So I would be backing McKeever to start again, because if you take him back out, that's like you are saying that, you know, some of that's on you. And I don't think it's fair to level any of that. We were poor. The whole team were poor, besides Graham and Hendo. I don't really remember anybody in the team doing anything particularly great at all. And I even include my main man, Brad Spencer, when I say that. It was just a bad day at the office. But I would expect, like for like, I would be expecting us to go with the same starting 11 tomorrow. That could change. Interestingly enough, when we move on to talk about the Queen's Park side of things, I was talking to some of their supporters on Pie and Bovril, and they were saying as well that they feel that they've got a lot more of a settled defence than what they did when they played us at the stadium at the start of the season, where they were playing like a right mid and a central midfielder and a left back, not in his right position, or left position rather. So they've got a more settled defence, but also as well their keeper I think has made more saves than any other keeper of any of the teams, which is interesting because it does mean then that they do give away a lot of chances. You know, a keeper that's got a really good defence probably isn't doing very much throughout the game. It sounds obvious as hell to say that, but it's true. So if a keeper's making loads of saves, it means that they're quite possibly getting cut open quite a lot. So it's an interesting proposition for us because we create about 4,000 chances per match in games that don't involve Livingston. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because if they're giving away lots of chances, then it increases our chances of taking one of them. We might still create about 5 chances before we take one, but if we are against a team that are just offering chances on a silver platter, then we might be alright. They seem to be struggling a wee bit in the goals department as well. So if I just bring up their most recent game, however, they did manage to get a couple of goals there. So their last game was when they went to Somerset Park and they played Ayr. They were 2-0 down by half time, and then George Oakley made it 3-0 with about 14 minutes to go. So you're thinking game's dead and buried at that point, but then they show signs of life and they manage to grab 2 goals in 2 minutes and bring it back to 3-2. But from everything that I've seen about the game, it sounds like that flattered them a wee bit, and that they were well out of the game. And then one of their players as well got sent off. The Rocco Hickey got a second yellow card, so he won't be participating in this particular match. In terms of how just their form looks in general, it's a bit patchy, to be honest. So they lost that last game. They won 2-1 against Dunfermline before that. I feel like every preview video I do, I talk about a team beating Dunfermline. Shocker, I know they're second bottom, so they're probably losing more than they're winning, but it feels like every time we talk about somebody, they've literally just played Dunfermline and just beat them, and it always seems to be 2-1 as well. We just beat them 2-1 as well. Weird. So they beat Dunfermline 2-1. They then drew away to Livingston. Oh, that must have been a nice result for them. And then before that, they went away to Morton and won 1-0. And then just finally, because I always like to do the last 5 matches, before that they lost 1-0 at home to Partick Thistle, which interestingly enough was their only, let me just double check this, I'll just make sure, yeah, that was their only home loss so far in this championship campaign. So whilst they're not exactly having a bad season, I mean, you speak to some people that their supporters, they were expecting to be down in a relegation battle before the start of the season because they'd lost a lot of players, Rory Payton for example, and they had a really young team, but Callum Davidson's recruited well, they've brought in some pretty decent players. They find themselves in 5th at the moment, literally 1 point behind 4th placed Partick Thistle, so things are going okay for them. It's, if you're at this stage of the season and you're there or abouts the playoffs, you'll take that. But as we all know with this league, though, all it takes is a little bit of a run, and then the teams that are behind you can start breathing down your neck as well. I mean, we see that all the time. It seems like Morton, for example, are always flirting with relegation, and then they're up and near the playoffs, and then they end up not getting it, which is really, really funny. But aye, Queen's Park in 5th, 1 point behind Partick Thistle, so they'll have no shortage of motivation. They've only lost once at home this season as well, so whilst I was going to say their ground, but oh, that leads into another can of worms, doesn't it? The whole, what is the script with their stadium? Now this is another tangent here, so I can confirm, because I still see that there's a wee bit of confusion about this. We are going to Big Boy Hampden tomorrow. We're going to the Big House. We're not going to Lesser Hampden or the City Stadium or whatever the hell it's called. We are going to Big Boy Hampden, Full Fat Hampden tomorrow. So just to make sure you're all aware of this, that it's main Hampden. I asked some of their supporters what the crack is with Hampden, and even though you're just talking to people through text, I could just envisage, they talk about World War One veterans when they came back and they had that, like, the 1,000-yard stare. It must be like that whenever you speak to a Queen's Park fan, because I guarantee that's the only question they get asked by supporters of other teams. What's happening with Hampden? How come you're not at Lesser Hampden anymore? I thought that was already built years ago. What's going on? Like, I guarantee that's the only thing they ever talk about with other supporters, and it must just be absolutely mind-numbing at this point. I had a look through some of the previous chat on, like, their page, and there's so much unhappiness about the situation with the stadium. It's a really, really weird situation that they find themselves in. I don't want to touch this. I feel like their supporters can't answer this, and I don't feel it would be right for me to try and wade into this and give any opinions on something that I quite frankly, I'm not that clued up on. I just find it weird that they went and built this stadium and then they're not using it, and then the stadium itself only holds like 1,500, and apparently, just for argument's sake, had we been playing at Lesser Hampden, that our away allocation would have been something like 200. That blows my mind. Like, what do you mean 200? East Kilbride are giving us more than that. Like, what? Like, how is that sustainable? Like, how can you have away allocations like that? That blows my mind. Like, people can say what they want about places like Capello and Palmerston, that they're old and they're dumps, but at least that the capacity is there, that you can bring big supports when the occasion allows. 200, what's that? Like, what use is that to anybody? That's a joke. Like, and then what's the alternative? What, going to a completely empty Hampden? Like, that's it. I'm getting into rant territory here again, but trust me, Happy Ray's still here. Like, he's still here. But one thing, I'm not really that keen on going to watch a team at Hampden and when it's mostly empty. Now, I go to Hampden to watch Scotland, and I'm not a big fan of Hampden at the best of times. I don't know what it is about the place. I just don't really like it all that much. I don't like going up 50,000 stairs to go along a concourse to then go down another 50,000 stairs. I know there's people in the main stand here that are like, so what? We do that every week. But I'm in the south stand, so I'm not used to all these stairs. Like, it's just... I don't know what it is about Hampden. Maybe it's just the thing. Everybody says they hate Hampden and everybody just goes along with it. Maybe I'm just a sheep. I don't know. Please let me know in the comments below what your experiences are of Hampden. Because I imagine there must be a few people that they go to Scotland matches and that, and maybe you've got memories of going to Hampden for the cup final in 2015 and in 2009. Again, please feel free to share any of these memories as well, just on the subject of Hampden. I know it's not exactly been the kindest place for us over the years. There's been some really heartbreaking moments there, like the game against Hibs as well. Like, I'm going to give people PTSD if I keep talking here. But in terms of what I think is going to happen tomorrow, I think that, as I've mentioned before, if we want to call ourselves champions, I don't mean call ourselves champions, but I mean if we want to call ourselves contenders, we need to bounce back for that loss against Livingston. We need to put it in the rearview mirror as soon as possible, and the only way we can do that is by bouncing back with a win. If we do any less than that, then that's when the talk of, oh, that's Falkirk bottling it, that's the wheels coming off, that's the apple cart, whatever metaphor you want to use, that'll intensify. All we've got to do is, like what we did against Wraith Rovers when we lost there, next thing we done, went straight out and won the next match, and nobody even talks about that through Wraith Rovers game anymore. And think about the significance of that. They ended their unbeaten run and nobody cares about it. If we go out and do the business tomorrow, that game against Livingston won't even matter. I think Ross Wayne said it best, and I think he could end up being right. This could be quite prophetic, where we could see a season where we don't beat Livingston even once and we still end up winning the championship. I could feasibly see that happening. I just think that Livingston's style of play just really completely cancels out the type of football that we want to play, and sometimes it's like, we shouldn't have lost that game. I'm not getting any rants again. If you want to see me greeting and complaining, then go watch the previous video. But if we get back to winning ways, we'll be all right. I think that we'll be fine. So my prediction is I think it will be an end-to-end game. I could see there being goals in it because they like to get on the ball as well, and they're not going to play the way Livingston did. So I'm going to go for... I feel like there will be goals in this because they do concede a lot of chances. So I'm going to go 3-1 Falkirk. What do you think's going to happen? Please do let me know in the comments below. And if you are watching the video and you're not currently subscribed, if I have done enough for you to, please do subscribe going forward. I'm uploading videos twice a week, sometimes more than that as well. So please do jump on board. It'd be greatly appreciated as we march onwards. Thank you all so much for watching, by the way. I can't say enough how much I appreciate it. Thank you all. I hope you enjoy the match tomorrow. I hope your team wins, unless we've got any Queen's Park supporters watching this. I hope your team loses. And if you're going to the game, let me know. If you're going to be watching it on the telly as well, let me know about that as well. Thank you all. Take care. Bye bye.